Hello, hi. This is going to be a playthrough of the first scenario from the Voice of Isengard. I'm trying out the lighting because the kitchen lights absolutely hate cards, it seems. So I'm trying with some different lighting. No idea if this will work. Apologies if it's absolutely painful on the eyes. So we're doing the Ford of Isen, just to give you a lovely visual while my sultry tones read the flavour text. The heroes came upon the dead rider as the afternoon darkened and the rain threatened to turn to ice. They found him face down on the old road where he lay still and broken among the yellowing grasses. Life had been hacked from his body with axes, nearly destroying the sigil of Rohan on his hauberk. Hauberk, maybe? Not far from him lay the remains of his horse, a proud mareas, let's assume, slain by black-fletched arrows in its graceful neck. As they dismounted to prepare a simple cairn for the body, a gust of western wind suddenly carried the familiar clangour of steel and screams. The dead man's killers had found new victims. Rain and aching bodies momentarily forgotten, the heroes remounted and urged their horses to speed. As they cleared the crest of a long bracken hill, the landscape opened up to reveal the Gap of Rohan. Below them, fed by fall rains, the river Isen crawled south like a bloated serpent. The road descended the west-facing hill and led directly into the river, where a ford bubbled and frothed among smooth, worn rocks. Today, blood and steel mingled with the waters. A small band of mounted Rohan warriors, knights of King Theoden's household, were trapped at the centre of the ford. From both sides of the river, scores of wild men from Dunland were attacking. Many of the Dunlendings brandished leather shields emblazoned with a crude sigil of an angry boar. Water rushing at the knees of their mounts, the knights were trying to protect an emissary in their midst. The nobleman was riding a grey mare and wore a black cloak. He flinched as the green shields of his protectors broke the deadly flight of the wild men's arrows. Oh, we know he's a baddie because no one would flinch at arrows unless they were a coward in Lord of the Rings. Already, arrows had claimed two of the knights, their bloodied detritus floating among the boulders. The wild men, tired of having their arrows deflected, began to charge. A few were already engaged in melee with the riders, but many were just now beginning to wade into the icy water with their shields raised as protection from the swords of the mounted knights. The bellowing of the attackers grew louder. The heroes didn't hesitate before they charged down the hill. The men of Rohan were friends, and what help could be given, the heroes should give. Right then, and that means that obviously the flavour text on the cards has been massively reduced, and just sort of summarises it. But I thought I'd give you the full thing, because, you know, I feel like they've really upped the narrative after with the previous cycle as well. Riding north into the Gap of Rohan, you come across a battle at the Ford of Isen. A small number of Rohirrim have taken up a defensive position in the islet. On the islet in the river's centre, where a large force of Dunlendings assails them. You must move swiftly, lest the river run red with the blood of Rohan. Set up. Add the islet to the staging area and attach Grima to that location. Each player searches the encounter deck for one different Dunland enemy and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. So let's just take a quick peek at these cards, because obviously you're going to struggle to see them on the table, but I'm trying a new camera setup, so let's see if it works. So the islet, 1 threat, 1 progress, immune to player card effects. While the islet is the active location, each Dunland enemy in play gets 1+1 threat, and it's a victory point. And it has Grima attached to it, who is a 2 will, 1 attack, 2 defense, 3 hit point objective ally. If free of encounters, the first player gains control of Grima. Action, exhaust Grima to draw a card. Wow, Grima, you seem fantastic. We'll learn that drawing cards is bad. If Grima leaves play, the players have lost the game. And then the one Dunland enemy that I've chosen is the Dunland Tribesman. 37 engagement, 0 threat, 4 attack. Goodness gracious, what are they feeding them? 2 defense, 3 hit points. When revealed, each player draws a card. Forced, after a player draws any number of cards, Dunland Tribesman gets +1 threat until the end of the round. So that means I'm going to get a lot of cards. So that's going to be a starting hand of 11, thanks to my amazing heroes. So 6 progress required, time 5. So in the refresh phase, I'll lose a time counter off here, and After the last town counter is removed from this stage, discard Grima from play. So if I don't beat this stage in 5 turns, at least, because there's all sorts of other effects that can change time counters, then Grima gets discarded, and if this Grima gets discarded from play, I lose. So starting hand, usual 6, and then I'm going to be getting a lot of extra cards after that. So we've got Lindor, Mythlode Archer, Imladris Caregiver, Sylvan Refugee, Light of Valinor, and Treebeard. Nah. Right, mulligan that. I'd really quite like to get a Gondorian Shield in my starting hand, or cards that really like discards, and the only one there that was discard heavy was the Imladris Caregiver, and I've got nothing to heal at the start of the game, so we can forget that. Right, let's just double check. Did I get that right? Add Islet to the staging area. Good. Okay. Right then. So the 6 cards that I am stuck with. 6. So starting hand, Quick Beam, Galadrim Weaver, Wandering Ent, Imladris Caregiver, Gondorian Shield, and Mythland Sea Watcher. So then, the Dunland Tribesman is there, so did I do the when revealed effects? I'm not sure on this. Do you know what? Let's err on the side of punishing me. Because if it was a Surge or something, then you would do Surge, but do you do the when revealed effects? Do you know what? I'm going to pause and check. Okay, a quick scan suggests that they do happen, so I guess I get an extra card from this chap. But he gets +1 threat. So there we go. So it balances out, which other way around. So he gave me an Honor Guard, which is a shame. I won't be able to play him this turn, but we always knew it was going to be tough. A Will of the West, an Elrond's Council, a Steed of the Imladris, and another Honor Guard. Okie dokie. So, first things first, Elrond's Council reminds me that I didn't even bother to get the threat dial, which should be on 29, but play Elrond's Council takes my threat down to 26. Let's put that there, give +1 will to Arwen. Okie dokie. Probably should do some resources as well. Goodness gracious, how rusty can you be at this? Okay, so we know we want a Gondorian Shield onto Mablung, so let's do that. We know we're going to want to discard a card to give a resource, so let's discard Will of the West to give Erestor another resource using Arwen's ability, and then let's spend Erestor's 2 resources to play Quick Beam, and I will have Quick Beam enter with a wound on him so that he's ready, and then with my other resource I'll spend 1 to play the Galadrim Weaver, which takes the top card of the discard pile and shuffles it into the deck. So my Will of the West gets shuffled back in. I have got 3 copies of this in the deck, but the thing is, the Steed of Imladris, I absolutely love it. It's an amazing card, but it wouldn't help me this turn, and I don't like the idea of ever losing all my Will of the Wests and somehow losing the game that way. Maybe the Elrond's Council would have been better shuffled back in, but it just seems abhorrent to me to not shuffle these Will of the Wests back in when I can, because if they either all come out at the same time, I get paranoia that it's all going to go wrong. So, that means I'm going to be discarding all of the cards left in my hand, because I've got no use for them, which is a shame. So, questing, currently there is only 2 threat in the area. So Arwen's going to be questing, and that's 4. And the Galadrim Weaver can't do anything else, so she'll quest for 5. So, let's see. If we get currently the Dunland Tribesman isn't going to engage, so Mablung isn't going to be forced to defend unless I choose to engage something. If I engage the Dunland Tribesman this turn, I could take the hit on Mablung. Erestor and Quick Beam could hit back and kill him this turn. Do you know what? I know that time is a factor, but I also know that clearing out enemies is going to be important. So I'm just going to quest with the 5. So 5 questing, 2 threat in the area. Ill Tidings. We all know how much the Dunlanders love birds. When revealed, the first player draws this card into hand. Ill Tidings cannot leave that player's hand. Then if the first player has 5 or more cards in his hand, Ill Tidings gains Surge. Huh. That's interesting. So it can't leave my hand, but I have to discard all cards in my hand at the end of the round. I wonder how that works. Well, anyway, it gains Surge because I do have 5 or more cards, upsettingly. So the Dunland Berserker. I really hate this guy. Forced, after the engaged player draws any number of cards, the Dunland Berserker makes an attack. What a horrible, horrible man. So that's 4 threat in the area, 5 questing, so that's 1 progress. Let's travel to the Islet, because we need to get it out of the way. And the Dunland Berserker is going to engage us anyway, so let's voluntarily engage him. That gives Mablung an extra resource. I don't really know what's going to happen with Ill Tidings. It cannot leave that player's hand. I don't know. It's a weird one. I'll deal with it when we come to it, I guess. Right then. So the Dunland Berserker is going to attack Mablung. Flip. No shadow. So that's 2 attack against 4 defense. Bounces off. A Restore and Quick Beam hit back for 2 and 3 is 5. 1 defense, 4 wounds. He's dead. And then we discard all cards. Not really sure what's meant to happen to Ill Tidings. But do you know what? I'll see what happens. Discard order is quite important in this deck because of the Gladrin Weavers and the Mithlond Sea Watchers. So I'm going to put the Steed of Imladris on the top and then make sure it's all allies underneath, because if I could shuffle back in that card, I'd quite like to. Threat goes up by 1. Time counter gets picked away. And then a new round. So resources. And 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. And of course, Lore of Sod, one of the West is right back. Technically, Ill Tidings is in my hand. I drew cards, so the Dunland Tribesman gets +1 threat, and he gets +1 threat from the Islet, so he's up to 2. Right, first things first, play Elrond's Council. So that lowers my threat by 3, and +1 will to Arwen. I like the idea of her getting counselling from her father. So I can't play Galdor of the Havens, because I've got nowhere near enough monies. I could play a Guardian of Rivendell, and it unfortunately means I can't use Arwen's ability this turn, but that's okay. So I'll use the Guardian of Rivendell, and let's burn 2 resources from Mablung, and let's burn 1 resource from Arwen. And then I've got to discard 2 more cards. So Wood of the West on the top. And there we go, we've got a nice beefy additional defender. So questing, Arwen and the Gladrin Weaver are going. Have more than enough strength to take down that Dunland Tribesman. So let's send a Restore to go and help with the questing. And it is another treachery. It is pillaging and burning. 2 popular Viking things, although my friend would want to point out that trading was equally important. When revealed, each player draws a card. Each player raises his threat by 1 for each card in his hand. So, for as long as we're counting Ill Tidings as not being able to leave my hand and overriding a Restore's thing, I guess this is the point of it. So, draw a card to Gondorian Shield. This isn't terrible for me. So, that's 2 threat, which sucks. And the Dunland Tribesman gets another threat, so he's up to 3 threat. But I will spend the Gondorian Shield to give a resource to Arwen using her ability. So that wasn't all terrible. So he's 3 threat. They're 3. 2 and 1 is 3, and Arwen is 4, so that's 4 progress. 1 on the Islet finishes it. Grima comes and joins the club. And then 3 progress onto there. So currently we're all ticking along nicely. And then we can kick this guy's butt. So I will engage him, which gives Mablung a resource. His attack goes on to Mablung. Shadow card. What a card to dodge. No shadow text, and the Dunland Chieftain is an absolute monster of a card. So that's happy days. Good work, Mablung. Takes no wounds. Quick Beam has 3 attack. The Guardian of Rivendell has 2. And you know what? Even Grima could throw in for 1 if was needed. And the Dunland Tribesman is dead. Goodness gracious. We're rolling it. Threat up by 1. 1 token off the counter, although I only need 2 more progress to finish this stage. And as anyone who plays Lord of the Rings LCG for any amount of time knows, those first few turns are by far the hardest. So if you get through those, you're laughing. Right then, 4 cards. Gosh, I love a restore. Oh my goodness, my Elrond's councils have been very generous coming out as early as they have been. So that's Silverharp, Rivendell Blade, Lindir, and Elrond's Council. And that is 1, 2, 3 resources. So first things first, play Elrond's Council, lower the threat by 3, and +1 will to Arwen. Goodness gracious, the poor girl, she's probably